a lot of military members, they start looking at this stuff too late. They'll start doing all this stuff in the last few weeks or the few months, if they even think about it at all. And then they do their 4, 8 years or whatever, 4, 6, 8 years. And then they're at that crossroads of, do I want to get out? Do I have anything lined up? Or do I have to reenlist? All right, we are back on with Beyond the Uniforms on another episode. Today we have Cassie Hatcher, who's an award-winning. She's got a lot of awards for some of the services that she does, and I won't kind of spill those beans right now. I'll let her do that. But I just want to take a quick moment to say, Cassie, thank you so much for being on today and supporting the veteran and the military community through your services. So appreciate you being on.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So just before we hit the record button, we had talked just real quickly that you were not in the military. However, you have parents that were. And so that's kind of how you got plugged in, I'm guessing, with the services that you do. So, yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about how you got involved in the military and veteran community.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, both of my parents are retired enlisted. So I'm a military brat. They're retired from Hill Air Force Base in Utah. I now live in Colorado on a 40-acre homestead and do remote work, and I work with veterans all over the country and all over the world, really from every MOS and every military branch. But really, I'm a brat that was a resume writer and turned into niching down into military and specifically executives and senior leaders. Most people that I work with have done their 20 plus years and are looking to get into operations management, project management, program management. So I help them translate their military skills into a language that civilians can understand. So having that background in the civil side is really helpful to translate that information, because I know when I read something that I won't understand it.
Yeah. And that's a great service, because I have talked to many veterans that say, well, I have this experience, I've done this, but I'm not getting hired. I'm like, well, look at the resume. Have you had somebody look at it? And they're like, no, I just wrote it up. I'm like, well, in the civilian side, it's a little bit different on the terminology and the stuff that they're looking for. So, they need to reach out to you to have somebody help them out. On that same topic, so what challenges do military members and veterans typically face during the transition into like a civilian career? And how does your services kind of address that?
I think the biggest challenge first is just figuring out what they want to do. I hear so many people that say, I still haven't figured out what I want to do when I grow up. And I just laugh.
Yeah, I still say that.
Yeah, because you've done so many things, especially those who have been in 20 years. And that's actually why I like doing what I do, is because there's a lot of flexibility depending on what direction someone decides to go, because they've done ops management, they've done program and project management, they've done HR, so many different things. So it's really a lot of different ways that we can go, just depending on what they want to target. It's just narrowing it down, because you've worn so many hats, anyone in the service has. And so really just figuring out what they want to do. I'd say that's the biggest challenge. And once they know what to do, that's where I really come in and help them tailor their resume in a specific direction so that employers can understand the full scope of what they've done.
Gotcha. And that makes sense, because, like we just said, that they do so many things and they really aren't sure what they want to do, but then translating what they did over into the civilian sector on paper is difficult. And I certainly have a hard time doing it. I can't do it. It's just easier for me to talk about it, but that's why there's experts like yourself. Now, so how do you help the veterans translate? So we talked just real quickly, like the translating the skills. Is that just done through resumes? Do you do like applications? Like what services, I guess, do you tailor your business to?
So I focus on the resume and LinkedIn side of the house. So first we start by building a master resume, and that can be up to 4 pages. Even for a master, I still wouldn't do the 10-page resume unless you're going federal. A federal resume is a totally different animal. although they are starting to pull back. And I do see some positions that on USA Jobs, they only ask for 5 pages. So it is becoming more similar, but still the federal resume is just so comprehensive. They want to know how many hours a week you worked and who your supervisor was and their contact information, all of that. So I will do federal add-ons, but my primary focus is private sector and government contractor. So we do that master resume, anywhere from 2 to 4 pages typically. And then I do a tailored resume towards a specific role where the client sends me the job link. I send back a tailored version of their resume, and I screen record the process as I'm doing it to show exactly what tool I'm using and what areas need to be tweaked, which oftentimes includes a job title, which isn't something someone would do in the civilian world, but a battalion commander does not directly translate into a civilian title.
Yeah.
So that's where that flexibility comes in, that they were, an operations manager, a project manager. There's just a lot. And depending on obviously the size of the organization, we'll tweak those titles even further.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that's a really good point to make, because there are titles and positions that we hold that mean something in the military in the uniform, but that's the difficult part of translating that over. And even with certain businesses, like business to business to business, it could all mean different things, right?
Exactly.
And so,
if you're applying for Amazon, you're not a VP, typically, unless you're a general officer. Perhaps it can put you at the VP or even CEO type level. But if you're applying for a smaller startup, absolutely you would be considered like a CEO or a VP at that smaller scale, because you have managed such large organizations. So it is tricky. It's definitely like a case-to-case basis and even a job-to-job basis. So it's helpful to have someone on the other end who knows, what to title your different positions and how to tweak it depending on the job.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great skill to have, because that can actually mean the difference between getting the job and not getting the job, right?
Exactly.
Now, so aside from like the resumes and helping them tweak those words and those type of documents so that it fits what employers are looking for, once that's done, do you help with the rest of the process? Do you help them, or is it on their own? Like they need to go and submit this to their own companies and then they take it from there?
They do. Yeah. I wish
Okay.
I've piloted that a couple times, and there are some really good tools out there to do like auto applications. Of course, there's LinkedIn Easy Apply, and I do help with the LinkedIn because that's just as important, if not more important than your resume. Because oftentimes when you're applying online, people are going to your LinkedIn profile before they even see your resume. So I do top to bottom revamp, had customized background header. I don't touch your profile picture, but I do give people advice. If I see the stern military headshot,
Right.
I'll recommend that they change it, because just remember, you're already a little bit intimidating to us civilians, and especially, certain people just they come across as looking a little bit frightening online on those pictures.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
look connectable and friendly and engaging on LinkedIn. So that's the only advice I'll give you there. But then, top to bottom summary, changing up the experience, giving recommendations. I've had a lot of people come. I review resumes probably like 10 a week. And I'll see a lot of people that have references available upon request, or the references on their resume. We do not do that anymore. That's probably about 10 years out of date. People want to see those recommendations on your LinkedIn. So if you had a rater or a senior rater who's already, written up something for you on your evals, take that to them, send it to them on LinkedIn and say, hey, you've already said this. Can you write this up on my LinkedIn profile? And the more you can give someone, the better recommendation that you're going to get.
Gotcha. Okay. And that's a good tip, because I never even thought about that. I guess I don't even know if I ever did that, like ask for references. I always just put them on there. But
And
anyway,
it's really obscure on LinkedIn. I'll say that. And I think that's why a lot of people don't do it. You have to go to someone's profile. You click on like the 3 little dots or the more, and then it's like in the drop down of like 7 different things. So if you haven't done that, you're not the only one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully, I don't have to do that now. I kind of do my own thing, and I got my own, AI automation stuff, business going, and then I do the copywriting on the side. So, but that's good to know in case. I mean, it's always good to have, because even if you do, for anybody that's listening that might have their own business, that if you got potential people wanting to work with you, that could be a very beneficial section to have included anyway, right?
Yeah,
Even if you have your own business. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, people look at your LinkedIn, and having that trust and seeing some of their peers write about you and their experience with you is just priceless.
Awesome. So this may be, I don't know if this is an area that you've ran into. Maybe if you haven't, then that's okay too. But I'm just going to kind of throw this curveball out there, because AI has been such a huge thing, obviously, the last couple of years. And it's, anybody who's been in the job business or job seeking area for a while, I see a lot of people complaining about how AI is just scanning resumes and scanning documents, and they're not even pushing that. Even if they're qualified, they're not even getting to the next step, because AI is doing a lot of these pre-qualifications that have a lot of errors in it. Have you ran into that or seen that?
That's been happening for 20 years. We've
Okay.
had, it's getting smarter, it's getting better, and I think that's okay. There are so many applicant tracking system hacks out there, because they've been around for, like I said, 20 plus years. Scanning your resume for keywords, scanning your job titles to make sure it matches up to the job that you're applying for. So really, it's not new, but there's definitely some great tools out there, including AI, that are helping us to better tailor resumes and figure out, even from the start of like career coaching, like I use AI, I use ChatGPT every day. Like, hey, let's look at this resume. What are top 10 jobs for this person based on their resume? And then that will even help further narrow down the search. Now, sometimes it's really, really broad. I'll say that, but it's getting better.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. I know a lot of people I've just seen floating around online that just reminded me to ask you about that. Now that I have you on there, somebody who's experienced in this area.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll definitely have to highlight this one. Now, are there any common misconceptions that civilian employers have about hiring veterans?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of it is honestly on the mental health aspect of is this person going to have PTSD? Are they going to freak out, at some point if a loud noise goes off? There's a lot of that, I think, are still common misconceptions. But as a whole, and I think COVID actually helped with this too, we're getting better at accepting everyone's mental health, so I think that's getting better. I think as far as like qualifications go, I see so many positives, to be honest. I see so many companies where my clients are getting hired at that already have, any type of military or veteran mentorship program or groups, and they realize what a huge asset they are. And so, if anything, I'm just seeing more and more positive things happening.
Well, that's good. That's really good to know. I was kind of wondering that, and that's a good thing that I didn't even think about, is the mental health thing. I know a lot of companies do hire veterans, but then, there's some veterans that they're kind of stuck in their own ways. Sometimes they bump heads, but that's good to know that you're seeing that on your end, that a lot of companies are actually still favoring a lot of veterans and actually hiring them. So that's really good news for anybody who's listening that's out there still searching for jobs. I definitely that's some good advice there. So good inside advice, I guess, is a way to put it. What about any current trends? Like, is there a certain field or a certain industry that veterans may be gravitating towards post-service? Is there like a common area? I know, I was Air Force, and then I was law enforcement for 10 years. And so I don't say most, but a lot of them, both sides, law enforcement and veterans, love real estate for some reason.
Yeah, I have seen a few. That's funny that you mentioned that. That is a trend.
Yeah. Is there any other ones that you may say, like, at construction, or I know there's quite a few that want to be business owners, but
yeah,
like IT, tech, cybersecurity?
Yeah, defense is probably it's always going to be number one. It's most closely related. A lot of people just take off the uniform and put on civilian attire and head to the same office. But defense contractors, of course, logistics is a big one. Amazon will, they just love service members. They have dealt with such huge assets in logistics and personnel. So it's a really nice plug-in for a lot of people. Consulting is a big one. Deloitte is a big hire of veterans. Definitely law enforcement. Business ownership, definitely as well. And you're right, a little bit of real estate. That's funny that I hadn't put that one on my mental list.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Between cops and firefighters and military, I know so many real estate, like more than half the real estate agents that I know have served in one of those backgrounds. I'm like, what is it about real? I don't know. Anyway, but so what advice would you give to military members who are just beginning to think about their transition into the civilian life? Now, I guess maybe this could be like a twofold question: is like, what advice would you give? And then how soon in advance would you recommend them start? I don't know if maybe creating or building their resume is the right word, but maybe that's part of it, but also starting to show a presence online, like LinkedIn.
I'd say yesterday on LinkedIn. Like, there is no time that is too soon to start making connections and building those connections, and just keeping a pulse on, I just talked to someone yesterday who's like, I really don't do social media. And I hear this a lot about LinkedIn. Do I really have to have a LinkedIn profile? I'm like, yes, because LinkedIn is your online resume. It's your networking platform that you can connect with anyone you have ever worked with, ideally. And it's also a job search platform. And you're also like, you're seeing your peers talking about your industry. So I'd say you got to get on LinkedIn right away. As far as getting your resume together, I wouldn't do it any sooner than 18 months out. But career exploration can absolutely happen before that. I have plenty of people who just haven't even thought about what they want to do on the other side. And so, definitely searching jobs, like looking up job descriptions and saying like, oh, that really aligns with me, or, oh, I don't have the PMP yet, or I don't have my SHRM certification yet. You want to have those about 2 years out, because if you're getting too close to the end, your commander might not approve it. I just talked to, someone yesterday who wasn't approved for like skill bridge and different things like that. Just super disappointing. But yeah, so I'd say LinkedIn yesterday, career exploration, maybe about 2 years out, and then getting your resume together about 12 to 18 months out, as long as you're not having like a change of duty station, or you're not going to be promoted right before. Because when I write a resume, I want to have all the evals leading up to the last position that they're going to hold before retirement or separation.
Gotcha. That's a great time frame for to give a lot of people a mindset of when to start looking at this stuff, because I think a lot of military members, they start looking at this stuff too late. They'll start doing all this stuff in the last few weeks or the few months, if they even think about it at all. And then they do their 4, 8 years or whatever, 4, 6, 8 years. And then they're at that crossroads of, do I want to get out? Do I have anything lined up? Or do I have to re-enlist? And I know plenty of military members that don't have anything lined up. They didn't do anything to prepare to get out. So their only choice is they have to re-enlist, and they hate it. And unfortunately, I've known too many of those folks. So anybody who's listening to this, go back and listen to the last 2 minutes again and start building your online presence. I think LinkedIn it's kind of one of those undervalued or underutilized platforms, because it's not sexy. It's not the bells and the whistles. It's not like TikTok or Instagram that's going to distract you with, the content that's out there on those social medias. But LinkedIn it's not the fun thing to be, but it is a business platform. And, just to give my 2 cents real quick, is I have been able to, now granted mine's a little bit different because I'm not actually looking for a job, but I use it to connect with maybe higher profile individuals might be the right word. But in the military, like, you just don't go up to a colonel, you don't go up to a general, even a major or a captain, and just start shooting the breeze with them like they're your best friend. You just
Mm-hmm.
don't do that, right? You know that. I know that. Everybody else knows that. But on LinkedIn, it's a different environment. I connect with generals and colonels and members of CENTAF and every day. There's
Yeah.
just a different mindset on LinkedIn that is not in the peer-to-peer or person-to-person type environment when you're standing there in uniform, right? Especially if you're an enlisted member. But on LinkedIn, it's different because the mindset is business. So connecting with the generals or the people who work at, in the Veterans Affairs or in the Pentagon or whatever it might be, the connections are, one, a lot easier. There's a lot less friction. Your connections are, and two, your connections are most likely to get accepted because of the simple fact that you are a fellow military member or a veteran.
Yeah.
So I just want to throw that out there for anybody who's, like you said, is running into the problem of, I don't want to be on LinkedIn. It's not fun. It's not great. But it's a very powerful tool to connect with some decision makers. So yeah.
Absolutely. I remember when Jocko Wilkins accepted my connection request, and I was
Oh,
like,
cool.
oh my God, I was so excited.
Yeah.
Especially, your favorite authors, people are hopping on LinkedIn, and like you said, it's not super sexy, but it is an informational platform and a networking platform. So, leverage that, because you will, especially like, let's say you connect with someone who you were in basic with, and then you see their career path, and you can just have different people to look at and say, oh, well, they got out after 10 years and this is where they're at and this is what they ended up doing. It shows you the different paths that you can take as well.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, anybody listening to this, go back 3 or 4 minutes and listen to this again and start getting your presence online right away, at least 18 to 2 years advanced before you get out. So that way you can come to that crossroads. You don't have to re-enlist if you don't want to. And even if you're getting close to retirement, like, set yourself up for success, basically is what we're trying to say.
Good advice.
So if we have, okay, so as far as the services that you provide, obviously we've kind of covered that. What do you think would be one of the most, or some of the most significant challenges that companies face when they're trying to hire veterans? I guess if that makes sense. Like, I guess to kind of break that down, to be like the hiring process. It would be, I mean, obviously you're in that process. Like, what it's coming from a company's perspective, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the challenges that they face when trying to hire veterans?
I think it's really the same across the board in hiring, which is just that there are a lot of applicants out there. And so they're just weeding through so many applications, which is why they leverage AI and, to just go through the masses. And I think that because veterans aren't always translating their experience very well, they're not going to take the time to do that. They already have just bunches and bunches of info to go through. And if you're not getting through the ATS, and not just getting through it, but you're not getting to the top like 15, 20%, because I guarantee you they're going to take off the top 15 to 20 applicants based on how the system has rated everyone. You're not even getting through the first hurdle. But on their side, in the hiring process, like I said, I think it's, they're just going through the masses. And so that's probably their biggest challenge, and that they're not going to take the time to figure out what you did.
Gotcha. Aside from, leveraging their LinkedIn profiles, resumes, and anything like that, is there anything else that they can do based on your experience that might improve their chances of at least getting some eyeballs or an interview, and of course, ultimately landing a job that might increase their chances?
Yes. I think leveraging LinkedIn and going kind of the back door, we'll say, of you always should apply online. That's usually company policy. Even if you know who's hiring for the job, they're going to have some hoops that they want you to jump through. But if you don't know who the hiring manager is, you can go on LinkedIn, go to the company page, go to people who work here or employees, and then you can filter and figure out, based on location, based on industry, which you want to use staffing and recruiting or human resources, try to figure out who's actually hiring for that job and send a personal message. That's going to put you in like the top 10% of people who take the time to do that. Now, LinkedIn does also for easy apply. There, a lot of the times they say who the job poster is. And I can tell you from personal experience hiring on LinkedIn, it doesn't do a good job of filtering people. It only has 3 categories: best fit, good fit, not a fit. And I found plenty of people in the not a fit category that were actually great fits. But when someone sent a personal message, I would always go to that application first. And so that's a really good way to really filter yourself up to the top.
Yes, nice. Yeah, that makes sense because I think you're showing initiative to find out more about the company and learning and doing it. You're showing the company that you're taking some sort of action to not just get an interview, but actually learning a little bit about the company, learning a little about who the people are behind the doors. Right. So I think that helps them out a lot more.
Exactly.
One other thing that a lot of veterans may not know is that LinkedIn does offer 1 year free. I believe it's the premium level. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It's like $70 a month or something like that. So I don't remember how much it is.
I think it's like 35.
And maybe it's 35. I can't remember. I think Sales Navigator is like the $70 or $80 one.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, if you don't have the premium version of LinkedIn and you're doing some job searching, definitely just go on there and Google LinkedIn veteran. I think LinkedIn veteran discount or whatever it might be, and set yourself up for that 1 year plan. Because it's definitely an easy way for you to start building relationships and all that stuff. So it was just my 2 cents. I didn't learn about that until later.
Yeah, I think it's especially for the LinkedIn Easy Applies, and it'll show you the skills that you have compared to what the job poster has listed. So you definitely want to look at that before you even apply and add all the relevant skills, because that is how LinkedIn did the good fit, best fit, not a fit. And the people who didn't have certain skills listed were ending up in that not a fit category.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, one last question we have for you is anyone who is looking to spruce up their resume, needs some help making that transition, what is the best way for them to reach out to you and get some more information?
If you can find me on LinkedIn, that would be ideal. Cassie Hatcher, Cassie, Hatcher, Hatcher. You can also go to my website, which is careerconfidence.us. And yeah, you'll see samples on there and testimonials. You'll see those recommendations. I'm not sure what I'm at. I feel like it's in the 60s or so. I haven't looked in a while. But definitely read through those and see if you know someone who's already worked with me, because we do get a lot of just word of mouth referrals. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, we'll put that information at the bottom of the screen for anybody who's watching this on YouTube or wherever the video might end up. And then we'll put all that information for the podcast episode or the version in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. So that's pretty much it. Do you have any last words of wisdom for anybody?
No, just stay positive. PMA, positive mental attitude. The people that come in that I already know they're going to be successful. And there's some people that I can tell they have the story that they tell themselves of the world is against me. This is going to be hard.
Yeah.
They struggle. So, just know from my side, I see a lot of success in military transitioning. The more specific you can get on what you want to do, the better. But yeah, stay positive.
Yeah, that's probably one of these best tips that I think that's out there, but it's difficult. And I get it because, I've heard so many people that are applying for jobs are just not getting it. And with the economy and everything going on, but yeah, just keep going, stay positive. Something's going to land and you're going to get something. It may not be the dream job, but you will eventually, if you stay positive and keep motivated. I believe that you'll get it. You'll see the fruits of your labor, I guess, so to speak. So
definitely. And don't stop looking either. It's okay.
Yes, do not stop.
Okay to job hop a little bit. They say veterans job hop more than anyone. I don't agree with that. And even if they do, that's what millennials do. That's what Gen Y does. So it's okay to not get the dream job your very first job.
Yeah, for sure. And just because, there might be different reasons. You may not align with the company values. You may not get along with some of the people, the boss, the supervisor, whatever it might be. You're right. It's not just veterans. It's a lot of people that just, quote unquote job hop. So, But anyway, I digress. So thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you, Cassie, again, for coming on. We really appreciate your advice and your guidance and some tips that you've shared with us. Again, if you need some help, visit her website. You'll find the link somewhere in this video or down in the show description. So other than that, take care. We will see you on the next one.